wanna see this. Yeah, yeah. Hey, I remember.
Hi, this is Paul Warren.
And this is Ryan Klein.
And this is another episode of SEO is Dead and Other Lies. Today we're going to be talking about local SEO. Ryan and I are both practitioners of local SEO as well as organic. We're going to get into some pretty crazy conversations. But before we begin, we're going to just recap to you in case you don't have a lot of knowledge about local SEO or you're trying to get into it, just exactly what it is, how you do it, and why it's important. So for small businesses, I would say local SEO is the most important facet of having a small business.
Oh yeah, I mean without a doubt. I mean you have your results, and you have your paid ads, and then you have maps, and then you have organic, and then maps only has 3 spots with the reviews, and the click through is extremely high for that.
Yeah. So even reviews aside, this is what's driving a lot of the traffic to people's, I won't even say websites, just a lot of business through Google. I wouldn't even say they get a ton of traffic a lot of the times from clicks through local SEO, but they do get a lot of calls and they get a lot of direction requests.
Yeah, I mean on mobile, if you see that result and you see the phone number right there, people do the click to call like crazy right there on local.
So if you guys don't know what it is, right? Ryan kind of recapped it slightly. It's just the maps rankings that Google gives local businesses. They used to be a 7-pack back in the day. That was pretty awesome. Then one day Google was like, thanks for the memories. It's going to be 3. I feel really bad for most of those businesses that were ranking 4 through 7 because a lot of that business just magically went away in a day.
Well, they technically still show up if you select the search results by maps. So that's your.
But who does that really?
I do.
Really?
Well, if
maybe it depends on what you're looking for. But if you're a business that is a pizza chain, you want something quick that's close by.
Yeah.
You're probably not going to super expand that and then delve really deep into the reviews. I mean, it does depend a lot on the type of business. Maybe you would do that, but a lot of businesses, people just want to click on the most available thing that's right there. That's in the 3-pack.
Yeah, you only really expand it if the first 3 people have terrible reviews, and they just so happen to be way farther out than you're looking for.
Yeah.
So that 3-pack is pretty coveted.
So let's delve a little bit into how it actually works. So the first thing that you need is a business, right? A Google My Business account. So you actually don't even need a Google My Business account. Google will just make a Google My Business account for you. It's up to you to actually claim it. A lot of small local businesses won't even have this thing claimed or know how to claim it or do any of that. But if you want to actually start managing your profile, building it out, putting time into it so it actually drives a consistent amount of leads and sales, you have to have a Google My Business account.
Yeah, that certainly sounds like a little business idea right there. Assisting business owners. That's a separate podcast, but there are some unscrupulous.
We'll talk a little bit later in this podcast about our business idea about claiming other businesses Google My Business account.
We talked about that the first
but
podcast.
maybe you didn't listen to that one. But so you're going to get the special recap from this one.
It. That's why. Never mind. Okay.
Yeah. So we'll get back into that later on in this podcast as we recap some of the crazy shit that we've seen in local SEO and some of the crazy shit that we've done or tried to do in local SEO.
People are going to skip 20 minutes in the podcast. Let's get to that. All right.
Yeah.
So local.
Yes. So how it really works is they have these things called citations, right? Mm-hmm. And they are the bane of your existence if you're in local SEO and you have to clean these things up. But pretty much how back in the day they had the yellow pages, the actual phone book that came out, and that information in it was your name, address, and phone number for a business or person. So that still exists, but it's basically online, right? So Google uses I think it's 8 major websites to find out that information about your business, and it has to be consistent across all of these websites for Google to really know where the location of this business is. So what happens a lot of times is maybe a business moves locations, maybe they get a different phone number. There's a lot of different things that can happen. Maybe they change their website. I don't know. There's a ton of things, and what happens is these business listings on these websites don't match anymore. So Google essentially has no idea where your business is, and it's a giant mess.
Yeah, citations are a mess. I think it's a lot better now than it was back then. I think they got the aggregators are a little bit more sophisticated, and they're not I think you said there's 8 companies. They've kind of narrowed it down.
Well, the worst part about it too, and this is still totally true if you look at the ecosystem of local SEO, is that these citation businesses, they feed from each other. So if there's one wrong on one website, the other websites will crawl it and then build a listing for that location that's wrong. So then you'll have multiple listings for locations. And so everything can get out of hand really quickly. And then there's like a bunch of other smaller websites that are like, they're not the primary like indicators, but they're still important to Google and like where your location's at. And they all feed into the other ones. So all of a sudden you can have like hundreds of listings for your business that are wrong out there on the internet. And it can get out of hand really, really quickly. And the most difficult thing about doing local SEO is if, you know, it's not a business that's starting from scratch with like a website. If they have all of these messed up citations out there, it can take months and months to get those things fixed.
Dang, when's the last time that you had to deal with that? That sounds terrible.
It's been a really long time since I had to deal with that. But when I worked for one client that had 14 like business locations across the U.S., I had to. It took me about 8 months to merge all those and close them down and get everything set up properly.
Not all day, every day, but maybe an hour or two a day, maybe half an hour a day.
Yeah, I would say maybe 2 to 3 hours, depending on if I had to make a phone call to any of these places, which is that's just a giant nightmare. Like if you have to actually call Google ever for help with like your Google My Business, that's really terrible. If you have to call Yahoo, well, guess what? You can't. They don't have any phone service. And not that they would respond anyways.
I know Corey talked to Google last week and they were on the ball with what they had to do.
Yeah, we had this one, when Corey and I worked together, we had this one rep from Google and his name was Dakota, and he was like the greatest helpful person ever from Google that we've ever talked to.
That's great.
And we would request him when we call back in. You know, you call this or really they call you. It's like you tell them like, hey, keep calling back between blah, blah, blah hour, and they'll call you. And we would get the call from whatever person this was, and we're like, hey, put Dakota on right now, transfer me to this guy. And so we were able to actually get a lot of stuff done with him, but you will be given the runaround a lot, and a lot of those people have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah, that is the truth. So you were talking about manually doing a lot of these citations, but what about like the services? Like, can you rely on Yext to do it? Can you rely on Moz Local to be able to do it?
You can rely on Moz and Yext to build citations for you, and you can actually use them as a sort of a go-between with some of the major ones, the 8 major websites. But there's, you know, dozens and dozens of smaller. I mean, like I'm trying to think of an example of one that's like kind of crappy that you would never even think to go to. What's like one?
Manta.com.
Yeah, well, no, Manta's okay. I think Manta's a major one, right?
I'm just joking, man. I don't know what people use Manta for, but I guess
there's like one that was like really, really obscure.
Not
like,
trying to get anyone's bad side here, but yeah, that one's funny.
Yeah, so it's just like a giant mess. I don't think you can rely on them to clean up the mess once it's happened. You can definitely rely on them to build the citations from the start. So if you have like all your ducks in a row and everything's like organized, yeah, that's like a really good way to like get stuff done really quickly. And it's actually cost efficient because some of these places to add a profile is actually very expensive from like a yearly basis. And then some, it's like you get one free edit to your business information a year, and if it's like something's wrong in it, you have to pay like $500 or something.
Oh gosh,
I don't think it's 500.
I don't even remember dealing with that. You've done some heavy duty citation campaigns.
Yeah, I've had to clean up a lot of stuff in my career, unfortunately. So you want to definitely avoid that.
So how are you finding out that they actually have an incorrect profile? Are you running it through like a tool that says it, or do you maybe do like a in quotation mark search of like your old address and you can see all the places that have your old address indexed?
That's a really good question. I actually do both of those things. So you can only usually get so much information from a tool. There's I forget the one that I was using for like a long time. It wasn't Yext. It was more expensive than like Moz Local, and it was like much more. Had way more features and stuff that you could do with it than a Moz Local. But if it's like a small one location business, like I will generally just use Moz Local because it's like super cheap and they build those pretty quickly.
There's actually cheaper options out there now.
Well, I mean, you can just manually have someone do it, and that would definitely be cheaper than either. But a lot of times, it's still from a monetary standpoint because some of them, like I was saying, you have to pay to get those profiles on there, and Moz has like relationships with them already, so you don't have to eat that expensive cost.
Oh, just like Yext has like a relationship with like Yahoo or something.
Yeah,
it's
you,
like one of the only
you
ways
have
you can get a
to
listing.
use Yext to edit your listing now.
Yeah, that stuff's a little bizarre.
I think it's a little slimy, personally. I think it's like hijacking your information about your business
Yeah,
and then making
especially
you
since-
pay to fix it on their site.
Yeah, especially since the X is not cheap. And the idea of like paying for citations to stay the way that they are annually for like what $400 to $600 is very bizarre.
Yeah, Yext is not a small business tool in my opinion. Most small like businesses are not going to be able to afford the $500 a month that it
No.
costs to have that,
Sorry,
and
yeah,
they're not
like-
going to get the value out of that.
Yeah,
It's
like on your hierarchy.
oh hey, guess what? My citations are still not messed up, and it's been a year. Great, you know,
I
like
know. Well, the idea that they will revert back to being messed up is like so like
ludicrous
unethical.
and wrong.
Yeah, like because like you're paying for a service for them to do like their service by correcting it. So the idea of you not paying and they're gonna purposefully put it back to incorrect citations is a pretty awful concept actually.
Yeah, Bright Local, that was the one I was using.
Oh, yeah, familiar with
and that worked pretty well for if you have like a bunch of
Are they,
locations.
Is that the Canadian one?
I
Canadian
don't
company?
think they're Canadian.
Brightlocal.ca.
No, I don't think so. I think it's .com.
There's a Canadian one up there.
I don't know. Maybe I'll check them out. Maybe they're cheaper. There's the cheaper Canadian version of Bright Local.
There's one that has like the sliding scale where like you slide it how many citations you want and then like the price adjusts accordingly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But going back to your original question,
Yeah.
I do that, and then I will also just literally Google the business name and see. So usually with any of these tools, they'll give you at least one if you have an incorrect address on there, and then it's really easy just to Google that address and see all the sites where that pops up.
Right.
So like that's how I do like a lot of the cleanup. So now that we've talked a little about citations and why they're important,
Yeah,
right?
the conclusion of that is don't move your business.
Yeah.
Because just stay in the same place forever.
Don't move your business.
Opening up
or-
another business is not like, or another location isn't the worst because it's new, and then once it's new, there's not like any way it can get super convoluted unless it possibly replaces your primary location.
Yeah. Well, so we'll actually get into that here in a minute because that's where like some of the crazier shit that we've seen in our time working in this industry came from.
Right.
I do want to point out though too, that, like I don't want to give like false information. Like you also have to have organic rankings for this to work. You're not gonna just build some citations and all of a sudden you're gonna dominate like the map pack. You need something that's gonna show up like organically below it to get in there.
Why don't we establish all the components of having your business successfully positioned on maps for your keywords? So you talk about citations, but I wouldn't say that's even the number one.
No, I would say you need a city-specific page on your site, especially if you have like multiple locations. You're gonna need the most important thing, in my opinion, is like a link to your Google Maps on like that specific page, and then like that page optimized for that city-specific location with city-specific content on there.
I certainly agree.
Yeah. So that's like, and you don't really have to have like number one. Like you don't ever have to be number one organically to get top spot in maps. But you need to be just somewhere on the first page. I would say like the top 8.
It's not very common for you to be on the second or third page and have a map listing.
Yeah, it's not impossible. It's just very
It's
very uncommon for that to happen.
It happens not very frequently.
Yeah. Another component that's become much more important is actual like reviews.
Yep.
So back when I started, like it was really like not a super important part of it. I mean, there wasn't like a super correlation between that and showing up like number one in the spots. I mean, there were certainly like businesses that had no reviews or a large amount of negative reviews that would do better.
When people just like never had reviews.
Yeah, people just didn't have them, they didn't care.
Yeah, people just like didn't do Google reviews.
Yeah,
Right.
And so now you have to spend your time coming up with ways to get Google reviews, and then it also helps to have reviews on some of these other websites.
Yeah.
Like Facebook.
Well, Google pull them in.
Yeah,
So-
they'll pull them in, and like it's like kind of weighted now as far as like the rankings go. So you want to at least have like a certain amount.
I'd say like also like a great reference for like this whole entire conversation really is to look at. We're not going to plug Moz too often, but they just do a great job every year compiling like.
They do good studies. They do good
yeah,
work. I'm not
they do.
gonna like promote their tools. Like use whatever tool that you want. Like I certainly don't really like a lot of their tools. I do like depending on the situation. But I think they produce really good information on the industry as a whole.
So what we're saying is the Moz Local Guide. I believe if you search for that, you'll find it. And every single year, I think that they survey 100 SEOs or so, and they ask them what rank like the most important factors in being on maps. And every year, it's like really spot on. And you'll see like the reviews component goes up and up like every year. So several years ago they maybe thought it was like the 14th most important, and then like it's 10th and the 8th. So I think now it's.
How do you feel about like hub pages for locations for
Oh
businesses?
yeah, definitely do it.
Yeah.
Well, the main office location always goes to the homepage.
Yeah.
And then when you have other locations, they have dedicated location pages.
But do you do a location page that aggregates all of them on there with multiple locations, and then you click and then have an individual one?
No, I do location pages for people that have, I don't know, maybe like 3 or more locations. But none of the map listings link to the locations page. With all the locations, they link to the specific location page.
Yeah. So what's really important, I mean, you can have a hub page that's essentially a directory to these other locations if you want. That's not going to rank for any of this stuff anyways. It's not going to like show up in the maps or whatever. It's the specific pages for that city, and then as much city modifier information you can have on there. You can be very templated with the content you have.
Yeah.
Like Google really doesn't seem to care if it's like almost word from word from a lot of other pages.
I know, and I have multiple projects where that proves that point.
Yeah, and also the URL structure is going to be very important.
Yeah.
You're following, like a good directory structure for those locations, and also it gives you a chance to optimize for like those city names and stuff in there too.
Yeah, but be careful with like the URL structure. You don't want to go like too many tiers down. So typically, as far as I would go with the location pages, like the main URL /locations / the city page, and that's pretty much it, like tier 3. I've worked on websites where they did like the home and then like locations / like the state / something else, and then / the city, like tier 5, and
it's like so deep that it's I wouldn't say detrimental. It's just like it's not really helping.
So pointless.
Yeah, and like Google's only gonna like use so much of that information from an SEO standpoint, anyways.
And they're just making it more difficult to get crawled. Like think about crawlers, going to tier 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. Like you're just decreasing the likelihood it's going to get indexed.
Yeah, and so I want to be really clear too. Like don't worry about like canonicalization or any of that ish with this. Just you can reuse a lot of the same content. Just make sure like it's specific. You change out the city and stuff in there. Maybe throw in a little more stuff in there.
Yeah,
that's specific to like where you're at.
Let's just put it this way: I've built websites that have 50,000 city pages on it, like instantaneously, and like the majority that end up getting indexed, and they're like 98.
And rank.
And they rank.
So
and they're 98% similar.
And Google also knows like this isn't like a blog article. It's not like an important article from like an educational institution or anything like that. So they're pretty good at like understanding like what the point of that business is, and they're not really gonna hold that against businesses.
Well, just think about like directories. Directories are thousands and thousands of pages.
Look at FindLaw,
they're all like the same freaking content. And FindLaw ranks #1 for keyword, like millions of keywords.
Right. So we've covered the main things that you need, right? So one, you need to claim your Google My Business listing. You need city-specific pages on your site with city-specific content. You need to have a embedded link to your map location, to your Google Maps, on that specific page. This actually can cause a lot of problems for small businesses because they might have like a universal link in their footer to like their main location, and they add on like new locations, and all of a sudden there's like 2 map locations on a page. So you want to make sure like you just don't have that kind of situation like showing up. So you want to have that, and then you want to have the organic rankings to go along with it somewhere in like the top 10 to really show up in there, and then reviews. Yeah, and then also when you're building up a authority website, of course you're going to have some sort of link building strategy, which is yet another podcast or we can talk a little about that. Yeah, you want to acquire some local links out there. I mean, and there's like a million things. There's like city-specific directories. Like there's all kinds of stuff like that. And that really, if you get like a good citation building service that's going to go out there and find like all these other ones, like the non 8 primary ones, they're going to find all of that stuff for you, and it's going to be really cheap. I mean, I think I paid like $14 to have like 100 of them made. $14. It was a pretty good deal. $14 and no cents. No, exactly, 14 flat. That's cool. But yeah, you're definitely going to want to build up the authority. And building links to your website is good in general. Obviously, for organic, it's going to be good for your maps. Yeah. But also, you want to be able to build a handful of links to your maps listing too. Yeah, that's a lot of people don't even think about doing that or care about doing that, but that helps out a lot. Because I've done that several times to give people like a little push, when they were on maps maybe ranked like 4 or 5 or 6, and every single time there's 100% success rate with me so far for this.
every single time I built 2 or 3 links, it moved up to the top 3.
So let's talk about what kind of links that you build to these. Like where are they coming from?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Come on.
Yeah, they're typically gonna be, your resources, your personal resources.
Okay. All right.
It's gonna be anywhere where they're
Personal blogging resources.
Yeah, it's anywhere that you have access to authoritative websites, and you can build those links to wherever the heck you want.
Yeah, but if you want to do it the more difficult and timely way, you can email people yourself and try and get guest posts. That's fine. You can just contract out a service to do guest posts for you.
Yeah,
it doesn't really take a lot.
Yeah, let's just talk about just hire someone go on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the link building podcast, that's going to be episode 50.
If you're not at the level where you can provide your own links from whatever network you have, I wouldn't spend a bunch of time trying to like email a bunch of people to try and get a guest post about it. I would just contract someone out that's going to do it, and it's going to be cost efficient, and it's going to be quick.
Yeah, all our listeners will know over time how we feel about outreach.
Yeah, we hate it.
I hate it.
I am way too busy and too skilled at this point. Like this,
it's just a brutal, bizarre use of human resources.
Sorry. All right, so let's talk a little about some crazy shit that we've seen. First, it'll be like not sites that we've done. We've just seen it because we've worked in enough competitive niches that like people will do whatever they have to like get leads and business coming in.
Yep.
And then we'll talk to you a little bit about some of the cool experiments. And I wouldn't say black hat per se. I would just definitely say gray hat experiments and stuff that Ryan's done and that I've done as well.
Yeah. Let me just mention real quick that even though we talk about Google all the time, it's worth doing the Bing places too. You may as well.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, they both work almost the exact same. If anything, Google or Bing's algorithm is a good bit behind the sophistication of Google's, I'd say, just from like a resources standpoint. Like they don't put as much money into it. They don't have as much going on with it as you do Google. So a lot of the spammy stuff that worked like 5 or 6 years ago works really, really well.
Just try it out. Go on Fiverr. Go on Fiverr. Buy some links.
Try some stuff out.
See, I don't know. Maybe it might work. Maybe it won't. It'll be out like $10.
Yeah, I would experiment with that. I wouldn't do it on a client website.
No, I don't know.
Oh, don't do it on everyone. If you're listening, and you go see it, don't do that.
Don't do it on Google.
Absolutely not.
Mess around on Bing, see what happens.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to hurt you. I think you're just going to be out $5.
Yeah, every when you're talking to clients, they don't talk about Bing ever. I haven't heard a client ask me like, how am I ranking on Bing like in the past 4 years? So
yeah,
whatever.
So all right, so let's get into some crazy stuff, and this is one that I saw, and I believe it is still to this day an issue with Google. They just don't really care about it because enough people aren't doing it, and that is the ability to move your location of your business just by verifying it with a phone call, right?
Yeah.
So to initially create a business, there's a couple of ways to verify it. Your Google My Business account. Sometimes you can do it through like the domain registrant. Sometimes you can do it through the website itself if you have like Search Console and Google Analytics all on there. So they're really just trying to verify that you're the owner of the website or that you have admin level access of the website.
Oh, question about that. You've been verifying like different businesses, and you've been going through like postcards and doing it like the legit way, and you've done it like a bunch of times on that account. Do you think that after a while, if you open up another like business listing, that they're like, oh, you've done this a bunch of times, you're legit, and then you get to a point where they don't ask for postcards anymore?
No, I've never seen that, and I've opened a lot of them. I feel there's like a marketing like label, like a marketer that you can be as like when you're doing that.
I feel like there are a couple of times where it was just.
And I didn't cover that yet, but like you're gonna have to request a postcard to be sent to the actual mail like location that you have as a mail box. PO boxes don't work. You can't use that at all. So it has a address, and then they'll send you within 30 days a postcard. Usually it's about a week with like a number on there that'll verify it, and then all of a sudden then you get to like own the listing after that. So once you go through all that process and it's verified, no, you don't. You just have to phone verify after you make the change of the location. And so this can be kind of tricky, kind of sneaky. And I think the biggest case that this happened, and this was several years ago, Miles ran a story on it, but someone moved how the system works.
Well, yeah, you can't. They definitely took that approach where like this one jerk can't ruin it for the million people that do this legitimately.
but so that's going to take us into something that we actually saw. Like we legitimately saw that affected. I wouldn't say affected us. It could have affected you because that was an area that you covered.
Well, it did affect me.
Yeah.
It did directly affect me.
So there's a firm in the South Florida area that did personal injury, and they thought it was a good idea to open up business locations in all of the hospitals in the area. So, you know, if you get pulled in there for like a car accident or whatever, you're on your phone, you search, you know, they were gonna show up just by like view of being the closest to you at the time.
Yeah.
And I think that was just at the time that like Google had changed, like the algorithm to show like localized results instead of just city centroid stuff. So.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and so that was a big change to the industry too that we didn't really get into. I don't want to super get into it in this conversation.
Yeah,
it's pretty deep, but.
Well, I mean, it's still true. I don't think the correlation is as high as it used to be, like you said, but the city centroid, the supposed city centroid.
Still important.
I mean, it's up there, but I don't think they put as much emphasis because it's too brutal on people like on the outskirts that are possibly
like,
the best match.
They're so much better at like knowing your exact location too, based on like everyone has cell phones now, so like they're really good at like giving you results that are like right near you on your phone. But before it was like most of it was based on how close you were to like the city center that you were at. So you know a lot of people would open virtual offices in the city center just to have something like show up and not actually take any clients at that office, but
right. Well, yeah, they call and they're just like, oh, you know, we can meet you there, but it'd be better if you came to our main office. Yeah. Okay, and that works almost all the time.
So, but this law firm was doing that.
Well, it wasn't just hospitals though.
It was also in other law firms, right?
Well, so what had happened was like, yeah, the hospitals definitely work because, like you said, the people pull up their phone, all they see is, you know, accident help now, whatever. They don't even look at the address. All they do is a phone number, and then they click it, and then they call. So that works. But I guess they got a little greedy or what, or I don't know actually what the train of thought was whatsoever. But they actually opened up an office, quotation marks, in our office. And I was
that's pretty ballsy.
That's pretty messed up. Because it says that you're in suite 220, which is not a real suite.
We're here.
Yeah, and you're PI, and you can literally replace our listing for PI in that area. And then I, of course, did a little research, and I noticed that not only the hospitals, but a motorcycle repair shop, a couple people's just residences.
Like collision repair shops, yeah?
No, not even PI related at all. Like a Bonefish Grill.
Oh, okay.
Was my favorite. A couple just open fields was it cool. It was cool, and you know, that kind of struck too close to home with opening an office in my location. So I did proceed to call all those locations and then sent them a screenshot and said, you know, these guys saying that they're there, and you can kind of pursue that however you like.
Yeah. So it's actually a little different with that industry. So as it turns out, and this isn't the case for a lot of industries, but legal is really regulated by the state bar that you're in and how you can advertise. And a lot of people don't know this, but like everything that you use as advertisements actually has to be approved by the bar before it's sent out. So one of the things that you have to have is when you have a listing for a location, you actually have to have employees at that location that can serve those clients. So you have to have lawyers at those locations. And obviously they didn't have hundreds of lawyers for this small. It was like a 2-person firm, wasn't it?
No, this firm is pretty big, but I think it's all because, you know, the funny thing about PI, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but PI can only be like 1 lawyer or 2 lawyers and like 50 legal assistants and paralegals. And
yeah, well, that's how a lot of law offices are anyways. Because generally you're going to have to pay those people a lot more money than the legal intern that you get for free. That's just there to like gain experience.
So yeah, the Florida bar does have regulations for that. Almost no one follows them. But
I believe that particular firm got in big trouble with that.
Well, they didn't get in trouble. I don't believe they got in trouble with the Florida bar because they're really hard to take on, like, you know, on incidents that pertain to marketing and ethics. Like,
well, I know one of the people doing it got disbarred for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
That's super. But you know, they got in trouble with all these businesses that they said that they were in their business, especially offices. Mm-hmm. And I talked to one business owner that said that claiming to have a location without their building without a lease is actually a form of fraud. So they actually filed a police report.
Well, yeah. So then they got arrested for. Well,
I don't know what happened.
Probably didn't get arrested for fraud.
You're arrested. No, but that's how they were getting in trouble.
Yeah. So, cool idea. I mean, really annoying idea if you
people still do it
aren't doing that. People, I don't think people necessarily do that. I mean, they definitely game the system all the time. That's pretty ballsy to open up another, like, your business in another lawyer's location. That's pretty ballsy.
I guess you're just asking for it, though.
Yeah.
Like, the Bonefish Grill was hilarious. Like, it's just so ridiculous.
That is pretty funny. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really know how that.
But like,
that would done.
what most businesses will do, and particularly lawyers, is they will open up some sort of, virtual office location. Like basically you'll purchase an address that you can receive mail from, or like a phone number, and it's just some office rental place.
Yeah.
And like that's all you'll do, and you'll pay like whatever it is, like $40, $50 a month.
Yeah.
I think that $50 is the cheapest I've ever seen it.
I don't see it's average. You're going to be looking at 80 is about average, 80, 100.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that is becoming increasingly more difficult because Google kind of release an official statement saying like if you do an Opus or DaVinci or Regus virtual office, like we will not honor it. Like they said specifically the names of those.
Yeah, I know. I have a client that does pilot training, and he's been able to work out just basically renting a spot to store his plane at all these different places and finagle that into getting an address there that he can receive mail. So it allows him to have a lot more office locations throughout Central Florida because of that. So. But again, we're not talking about, and I mean, he flies to those clients in those locations and trains them there. He doesn't force them to go somewhere else either.
He doesn't force them?
No, doesn't. He's not like, hey, I know that you asked about this in Tampa. You have to come to Orlando to do your training. Like he'll fly down there, give them their training, and fly back to Tampa or fly back to Orlando. So
that's a cool operation.
Yeah, it actually is pretty. It's growing. They're getting another plane. That's another topic though.
Yeah, where are we going with this again? Oh, so virtual offices.
Yeah, how it's some crazy-ish that we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. It's from what I've seen, it doesn't happen as often, but yeah, people can open up offices, God knows where, and a lot of people do virtual offices, but Google's cracking down, so you probably have to find virtual offices that are kind of more, I guess, individual or unique, or they're not really like the chains, basically.
Yeah. So one of the other things, and I've never done this, I would never do this because I don't believe in negative SEO to people and that kind of stuff. I think it's bad karma, and generally it's some dude like me for the most part doing this job for another company, so I don't really want to screw anyone over. But what happens a lot, and it's very easy to do, is just screw up your competitors' citations, and it's super simple.
You just send them completely wrong citations?
You just open up profiles on these other websites with the wrong information.
Brutal. Yeah, because as far as the negative SEO sending people spammy links, I don't think that works as much anymore. Because Google's just these are crappy links, and we're just not gonna.
I would disagree with that, but
I don't know.
I don't want to give this example because it's very specific. But I will say that I've had to do online reputation management before, and I've had to make some things disappear that were very highly authoritative, and I definitely built over 1 million backlinks to it.
A million?
Yeah.
And then what happened?
Well, so what actually happened was the site took it down. They archived the page. So their site administrator, I guess, or whoever was doing their SEO probably got some sort of alert in Search Console.
That they got 1 million spammy links?
Yeah. That's and it was
crazy.
to porn and payday loans.
Oh,
and
see,
things like that.
Okay, so when I was talking about spammy links, I'm just talking about from crappy websites. I'm not talking about pure porn gambling.
This was straight I was using a GSA.
Yeah, because that on the other hand is
a million links to this thing.
That on the other.
But to be fair, we had talked to them and asked them to take this thing down and offered to pay them a bunch of money, and they still didn't want to take it down, and it had been up for a really long time, and I think there's a time frame where how long are you punished for your mistakes in the past? You know what I mean?
Forever.
Should it be the rest of your life that someone can look this up?
Forever.
And I doing a really good job justifying this really shitty thing I did. This really scammy thing I did. But the real thing was like I just wanted to see if I could do it to something that was like that authoritative, and it worked, and I did.
And how long ago was this?
This was about 7 months ago.
Oh dang. Okay. Well, everyone, let's stick with that as an example. That yes, you can still most certainly do it.
I'm gonna tell you right now too. Like Web 2.0 links, even though everyone's thought forever that they don't work anymore, like we did an experiment about 3 months ago, and it killed it.
I'd imagine that those would. Yeah. I don't know how you go about doing it nowadays, but I know how that we did it a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I literally had the SEOs I was managing like do an experiment. I put them in competition against each other to rank like not the same keywords, but like keywords that had similar like search volume and stuff. So like they each got a blog article and like a set of keywords, and they had to like rank it using this method to like test the method.
Oh yeah.
Like one did a way better job than the other one because it was like
way smarter.
Well, I think it was just way more detailed, and he was like excited to do it, and he like got on it and like all and he did a bunch of on-page stuff too that helped out a lot. But that kind of stuff, I mean, it's surprising that it still works, but it does. And we can go to another conversation another time, like how we got those links, and it was pretty easy.
Yeah, where are we at right now? Because I was going to talk
30 minutes.
30. I was going to talk about real quick my click-through.
This is super, okay. So
because this also applies to local.
Yeah. All right. So we've covered the crazy stuff that we've seen, some of the crazy stuff that we've seen. So we're going to talk to you now about some cool local SEO experiments. So, one that Ryan did.
Yeah. So this is it might sound like a tangent, but believe me, I'll pull it into local. But anyway, so I'm a firm believer that click-through rates can definitely affect rankings in real time for organic results. So that being that, like, let's say you type in Orlando DUI lawyer and you click on the one that's ranked 8, for example, and then multiple people click on the one that's ranked 8. So the train of thought is that all those people are clicking that particular link, that it should increase in rankings in real time because the click through for that particular link is going up. And the reason that I believe that and the logic behind it is, I don't know if I explained this to you, but think about it like let's use the Orlando Pulse, which is a horrible example because it's really a bummer, but I make an example. So let's say you Google search like Orlando shooting, right? And all you're going to get are like, all these different results. It's going to be like all Pulse. But let's say there was one like today, right? Just like somewhere random. Yeah. If you typed in Orlando shooting, I guarantee that the first 50 results would probably be like the Pulse shooting. But as people are like going through looking for something else, they go like to like deeper and deeper pages. They're going to find like the most recent one, and they're going to click on that one, and then Google knows that that's actually now more relevant for
they're using on-page signals to help with the ranking.
They're like, well, just basically that being said, so like, okay, so all these people are searching for like shooting in Orlando, but it's not about Pulse anymore. It's about this new thing. So this new thing is probably like what's trending now. So let's push that up at the rankings in real time. So that's what does happen. So I wanted to take that and see how could we get people to, how can we get rankings increased because of click-through? So it's like, basically, how do you how do you encourage people, or coerce people to click like on a specific link?
Outside of your meta description.
Yeah. So, because that's another reason that titles and descriptions are important, is because they help with CTR, of course. So we did this experiment where we went on Mechanical Turk, which is pretty much, have people do a task or a survey or something very, very simple for like, I don't know, 10 cents, 15 cents, and takes them like 30 seconds, so they don't care. And basically we told them to do a set of, I don't know, a few steps, or gave them some simple instructions, but more or less we told them to like click on like a client's link, like
search a term, and search a term in Google, then click on this link after you search the term.
Right. So basically,
you had them do it one time, or did you have them type in different?
I had them type in different keywords. Like I was like, pick from this list of keywords, like 5 different keywords. Yeah. And then I was like, tell me which keyword, and then the result is like, tell me which keyword you typed in, so I can like track how many people clicked on each. So I probably did it for like 100 people. It probably cost like $20, and basically like whatever links got like 20 or 25 clicks, they like almost always increased in rankings, and they didn't like always stick, but they certainly did increase. They jumped like 4 to 6 spots in real time, like by the end of the day. Yeah. And then
did the rankings stay afterwards?
no.
For a short amount of time.
Yeah, but they I don't know, the logic behind it is kind of tricky because, it should stay because you'd think that if you have good titles and descriptions, which they did have better than other ones, plus like the schema tag for like the 5 stars, which was like way better than everyone's, that once they got up higher, that they should stay higher because naturally then the click-through should be higher.
Yeah, because they rank higher.
Yeah, so they're already up there, but they already also have that more appealing link. So you'd think that they would stick, but most of the time they didn't. But
so then the off-page metrics is what took over.
Yeah,
in the long term.
Ultimately, some stuck. And we did the experiment for maps, so that's like the pull-in for local, and the same thing did happen.
Yeah.
They would bounce up like a few rankings, like in real time.
Yeah.
So talking about like they would do it, 25 people would click on it, and then like I'd check back 3 hours later, and it moved up a couple of spots. And it's not like just typical like Google fluctuations.
It's a crazy cool experiment. Like I've never talked to anyone else that's done that.
Did I ever explain this at all?
Yeah, we explained it before. Like I remember you were doing it a couple years ago. Like I remember Corey like showing me Mechanical Turk for like we were like, oh, we can try this. We never like did one of those experiments. Maybe Corey did actually, and like I didn't know like how it turned out. But yeah, I remember you doing that, and I was like, well, it's like really cool.
Well, what kind of inspired me to do is hilarious that there's an SEO company out there that was like going to like our results or our clients' work. And they did this thing on their website where they said they're like bragging about some rankings they had for their clients. Mm-hmm. So it'd be like type in like Minnesota DUI lawyer, and then you'll see that my client comes up first, and then they'll be like check out their website too while you're at it.
Ooh,
so technically they were like doing a search and clicking on it, and they were doing exactly what I'm talking about.
They weren't even meaning to do that. They were probably just like writing cool copy to like check out a client. Like they probably weren't like, oh, this is gonna help our click-through rates on there, and it's gonna bump it up.
But the person was ranked number 1 for it. Yeah. For like a good keyword.
I mean, that's
so
cool.
Maybe the click-through, that little bit of consistent click-through, just like a little in addition to
like it doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot for like the algorithm to like project like future results from stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it solidified their spot, so I thought that was pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. All right, so we covered, the basics of SEO, everything that you're going to need, for local SEO, crazy stuff that we've seen, cool experiments that we did that you can try. Now let's talk the last little bit here about tools that you can use. We talked a little bit about them already in the podcast, but I'm just going to recap some of the stuff that I've used. So if you're a small business, you're like a one-person shop, like maybe you don't even want to hire an SEO, you're just listening to this because you want to get a little knowledge. I would go with Moz Local for sure. It's going to check your listing for you. It's going to show you stuff that's like wrong about it. It's going to show you like if you have multiple listings on certain pages, if you have incorrect information on different sites, and it's going to cheaply give you a way to sort of like organize all that and have the correct ones built and merge stuff.
I just remembered what the Canadian one is.
Oh, what's that?
White Spark.
White Spark. I've used that one before too.
They're good.
It's pretty good. So we're going to get now into like a little bit like the medium level one. So like Moz Local really is only good for small like businesses. It's not like a large like level tool. You would not use it if you had 20 plus locations, or if you're like a Walmart.
They probably tried. They beg to differ for sure, but
I would disagree with them. And this is just based off experience. So I would say your next tier, price wise too and performance wise, is going to be like a White Spark, or what was the other one I mentioned earlier?
You said Bright Local.
Bright Local.
Bright. I actually don't. When you said
Bright Local. Bright Local.
No, when you said Bright Local, I thought you were talking about White Spark.
No. No, I think they're two separate ones. We should probably double check that just to make sure like I'm not full of shit in this podcast.
No, don't be full of shit.
I know. So what was it? Bright Local. I think that was the one I used at that education institution I worked at. Yeah, Bright Local.
No, I just
pretty cool. And then White Spark. Again, these are like a little more premium level tools. They actually have a lot more stuff.
Primo stuff
that you can use to fix these citations. They're gonna give you like much better audits. Like way more websites are included in these audits that you might potentially have like messed up citations at. And then the most expensive one and the one I like to work with the least is going to be Yext.
It's freaking expensive.
It is. It's like $500 a month for
Well,
like the low level package.
I think it's $500 annually.
Is it?
Yeah, it's not. But the thing is, it's like that's per location too.
Yeah.
Can you imagine dropping like
that is per location.
$2,500 a year on like 5 locations? Plus, they offer a finite amount of citations. Like they tell you, like we do like 300 or 400 or something.
Oh, Yext is a publicly traded company now.
I think I knew that.
Did not know that. I'm just gonna check out what these prices are.
We partnered with them for like a year, and then we never heard from a rep ever. Again.
I don't think. They don't have like a price page. This is one of those ones where you have to talk to someone. And they, that person builds you a package that's perfect for your business. You're
gonna be on Yahoo.
It's gonna be great.
Get ready.
Oh.
Get ready to handle all the biz.
So those are really the major ones. If you don't want to deal with any of that and like you're really organized and you can like check stuff, you can always go on like Fiverr and have someone build a bunch of citations really cheap, for $5, or they'll have packages $5, $10.
They'll probably do a good
15,
job
yeah.
of snagging a good handful.
As long as you give them the correct information, for the most part, they're gonna like build all those. They're gonna provide you the login to those websites. Sometimes like they do dumb things that don't make sense, and you got to go on and like update them after the fact. But like Fiverr is the very bottom of the barrel. Like if you want to get this stuff done, I would use like a service like Conquer. There's like tons of people that offer services on there, or somewhere on Blackout World you can find one of those people offering one of those packages, and they'll get that done for you really quick.
You gotta be careful with citations too. Like make sure you're very consistent with how you have it on your website and what you plan to do. Like really, like even if spelling like avenue, like that kind of stuff, AVE and then dot and then avenue spelled out, like you gotta.
That can mess you up, but not like avenue spelled out versus abbreviated avenue. Like Google's pretty good at like knowing that
you just
those are the same thing.
Just make sure that you don't want any complications. Just do it exactly how you already have it.
Yeah.
Don't screw around with that.
But I would check those out, and that'll really get you going in the right direction in the local SEO market.
Yep, and then if you never end up ranking after actually following all our steps, just give me a call. Call Paul on his cell phone.
Yeah.
So that's
555-555-555.
something or other.
Please don't say my phone number on this podcast.
That's just the area code.
Yeah, I know. Let's just not talk about that. We do have a website.
You're making me nervous.
What's our website?
I
say website. It just redirects you to
SEOsdeadcast.com.
Our Podbean account just directs you straight to that, but because we're kind of lazy right now, we didn't build a.
I don't know.
We just got 2 mics, guys. Give us a break.
Do we have to build a website? Why don't you just redirect it?
Well, and how are we gonna get like people contacting us?
By giving them.
How are we gonna sell our merchandise?
They're not gonna. I see someone walking around with the SEO's dead hat one day.
You're punching them and
I'll
taking
be like, "What did you get that? Why are you wearing that?"
Yeah, I think at some point we will have more of a simple website where we can archive all of our podcasts and have everything there for you guys.
That's
then you can contact us, and hey, maybe we'll even have you on for a show and talk to you about SEO.
Oh yeah, we'll take on guests. We had our first guest last week, and he said he had a great time
of his life.
He said it was so much fun. He lost sleep that night. He was so excited about
thinking about it again.
Yep.
Well, all right, so. Thanks for listening, guys. I really appreciate it. This is Paul Warren.
This is Ryan Klein.
And this has been another episode of SEO is Dead and Other Lies.
See ya.
Bye.
What do you think?